3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. So cheers, Thaddeus and Cassie. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. I know you're drinking some cola out of your whiskey glass today. But we appreciate you being on. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. As we found out this morning from being on Tertia's podcast, one of the tornadoes within Oklahoma, a powerhouse of HVAC and plumbing businesses, home service businesses that are crushing it in Oklahoma. And a lot of them are women-led, which is even more phenomenal to see. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. But for those of you that do not know Cassie Pound, she is the current Vice President of Quality, Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing based in Glenpool, Oklahoma. She's been in the industry for 8 years. Her background has always stayed true to delivering a high quality customer service experience. And that really stems from her background being in retail. I learned sales in retail working at a sporting goods store. So I'm going to love getting into that part of the conversation as well. But truly runs a family owned and operated business with her husband, Oscar, as well as has some of her kids working in the business as well. I found out from some other shows that you've been on, but their personal touch and true love of their employees is what really sets them apart. And I can't wait to get into the conversations today around leadership, around delivering a superb customer experience, and what all of that entails. So thank you so much, Cassie, for joining us.
Thank you. I'm excited
Awesome.
to be.
Great. Well, in terms of, sorry, go ahead.
On time. I'm super ADHD. And so if you see me, I'm writing my thoughts so I don't forget it for you.
I do the exact same thing.
Very transparent about who I am. I am very ADHD.
It's okay. Sometimes even when I write down thoughts on paper, I still forget about my thought. The worst is when you're thinking like 3 thoughts in advance and you forget the thought that you were just talking about in like the middle of the sentence because you're thinking so far in advance. So I feel you on that one.
Right.
Absolutely. I very much am like so far ahead sometimes, and then I get to the point that I'm like, oh Lord. No.
I love it. Speaking of squirrels, we already have a guest chiming in, Greg McPhee from I can't remember what. Yeah, no, I know that. I was trying to remember which part of the country he was in, but runs a killer business.
Ohio. Is it Ohio?
I think it was Ohio. Yeah, I knew it was up in the Midwest, but yeah, you all rock. Greg, thanks so much for tuning in. Cassie, why don't you tell us a little bit about that journey into the trades, into HVAC, Dayton, Ohio. That's what it is. Yeah. Thanks so much, Greg. Into the trades. I know obviously your husband was already in it. You married into it and then started running the business with him. But yeah, tell us about that journey.
Yeah. So I was, and I worked I'm very vocal about working for Best Buy. I love that time in my life. And I was an assistant manager for Best Buy as operations manager. And that role included managing all the people. And most of the time that was 16 to 18-year-old people. And so I learned a lot of great things there. I learned how to be a salesperson. I learned how to work with people. And so I just got a lot of great experience there. I met my husband. You know, everyone likes to say, well, how'd you get into this? Well, how do you think I got here? You know, right. The cliche, I married the heat and air guy. I met him. He had 4 boys and I had 1 boy, and we blended our family. Now we have 6 kids. Our youngest is ours together, and she's the only girl. So it's fun in our house sometimes. But I just jumped in and tried to start learning. You know, when he went out on his own, we thought I'll keep working. At that time, I had left Best Buy so I could have more of an 8 to 5 hours. And I was working for a trucking company here locally, doing the same types of things I had always done. And I thought, oh, he'll go out on his own, and maybe in a few years I'll go work for him. And that turned into like 3 months later.
You're really patient with that one, hey?
Yeah, he was really busy really quickly, and that was a huge blessing to our family. So I jumped in, started working with him. And then we just grew super quickly. We didn't even start advertising this business until 2019. We had zero advertisement. We just grassroots growth. I'm from this area and just doing those things. But it's so crazy to think back to 2014 when we started this, and how in the world did we get here? Some days I'm not sure.
Well, and actually, this is a great segue into part of what we talked about this morning on Tersh's show, Service Business Mastery. For those of you that have not listened to that or tuned into that one, it's a great podcast as well for the trades. But Tersh had asked the question around bootstrapping a business and just throwing it together. And some guys, they happened to quit, or they got fired, or they were really unhappy at where they were working, so they just said, screw it, I'm going to go off on my own and do it. And they don't have the finances set up properly, and they just go off on their own. What is it that you felt like you and Oscar did really well to get really busy really quickly so that you could grow fast?
I think the biggest focus for Oscar and I has always been our community. We're from a small community. I grew up here. I've been here my entire life. Oscar's from a different part of Oklahoma, so he jumped in too. But we knew, my heart has always just been about giving. Sometimes I give way more. Our accounting clerk, she will be like, Cassie, you need to calm down on giving this month, or you've done a little much. It's just always been my heart. And so we just jumped right in. We were doing the hometown parades, and we were going up to the sporting events, and our banner was at the basketball games. And we just jumped in and served our community. And our community where we're at in Glenpool, I think we have like 12,000 citizens. We are technically, people hate the term, technically a bedroom community. There's not a lot of jobs here. So most of our residents are working in Tulsa or another city, and then, sleeping here in Glenpool. And so we had no clue. And back then, a lot of people, I think, sometimes see a lot of contractors don't want growth like we've done. Right. They want to just be the one guy in the truck. They want to turn down the call if they don't want to. They want to go golfing, or they want to go fishing, or whatever. And that's fine. And that serves great for a lot of people. I think Oscar and I are just hungry for that next thing. And so from the beginning, it was, this is what we can do. And, both of us come from families that didn't have a lot of entrepreneurship in our families. And so we just took the chance and just kept betting. And maybe that's it too. Like Oscar always says, I'm not afraid to gamble. So sometimes it's gamble.
Hey, big risk, big rewards.
So for sure.
No, that's a big part of it. One thing that stood out to me in that story was heavy importance on building the brand, which, I mean, anytime you think of sponsorships and giving back, like that is what you're doing. It's a part of branding. And it's great because it creates a win-win scenario where you can give back to an organization or a school or whatever the situation is that you're donating to, while also getting that reciprocating feeling of, they supported something I care about as a homeowner, so I want to reciprocate that back to them and support their business. Did you, I guess, one, always believe heavily in growing the brand first as opposed to trying to get leads and make more sales? And then two, at what point did you, because you have a Dan Antonelli rebrand, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. At what point did you decide that was the route to go as well and improve the look and the image of quality?
We, from the beginning, wanted to be different. From the beginning, our colors in the very beginning were orange and black. And if you know anything, most people, the only thing they know about Oklahoma is Oklahoma State and Oklahoma University, right? So it's you're either OU or OSU. We have the Oklahoma City Thunder now, but back then we had just gotten the Thunder, I think. And so everyone, when we came out as orange, our colors being orange and black, everyone just immediately assumed that we were Oklahoma State fans, and we were just like, pick two colors. And I'm like, that's the farthest from the truth. Oscar's like a diehard OU fan. But every heat and air company in the area was red, white, and blue. And so how were we going to immediately make ourselves be different? And that was pick an orange. And so from the beginning, we were very set on being defined as the orange company. And so I've talked before, like our first logo, I think we paid $50 for it. And she had mimicked the colors to be orange and blue, which were the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we were like broke, right? Like we're a brand new business. And we go to get our shirts printed, and the lady's like, well, that's a 3 or 4 color, and that's more expensive. And I'm like, well, okay, so how much for the 2 or the 1? I'm like, we won't give up our orange, but we can take white or black or use like a black shirt. And so that's how we adapted from that original orange and royal blue to orange and black, because I was at the t-shirt shop and I'm like, I'm not paying for this yet, you know? And so then Oscar had a Dodge pickup, and he lifted it, and we wrapped it, and we were just immediately from the very get-go, let's stand out and show up different than what everyone's seeing. And so when we bumped into Dan years later, rebranding made sense because he had the same vision of standing out. Now that was an emotional change because I was wanting to change and Oscar was wanting to change, but then, you know, you're like, but ours wasn't that bad, you know? And so, but yeah, absolutely. We wanted that distinction from the beginning.
No, well, and I wrote some down, show up different. And again, Tersh just commented, he's watching on YouTube, and we were on his show earlier today, and we chatted about branding and how it's not just your logo and it's not just your colors, but it's how you represent yourself within the customer's home. What does it look like when you show up? What do you do you have your booties? Do you put out the mat? Do you show up clean, cleanly dressed, unwrinkled shirt and all those sorts of things? So I'm curious to hear for you guys, how you show up different when you in that branding sense, but within your client's eyes.
I think that just like you said, we are showing up with our booties. We are showing up with a smile. It doesn't matter if it's a plumber, an HVAC technician, a comfort advisor. We're all showing up the same way. We park our vehicle in the same spot. We get out of our vehicle the same way, and everything, we show up the same. So that that's quality. That's who's here. That is just so important to us, of that entire experience from the moment that someone, calls in. If you call this building at 3 a.m. or our phone line at 3 a.m., someone from this company is answering the phone. I am anti third-party call center. We worked way too hard to create that experience. And our call center is the same way. They are we call it a call center, our local call center. They're the same way. They're like, I do not want someone to mess up that experience, because we're so driven by that. And so, again, we want that from that first phone call to the last happy call to tie up that package, that experience. We want it to be the same.
I like that.
Oh, it's beautiful. It really is, because that customer experience is everything, right? Mm-hmm. However, I've heard you kind of echo a similar sentiment when it comes to how you treat your staff.
Yeah.
I heard a long time ago that the number one thing you can do for customer service is take care of your employees. Because if you deliver an amazing experience for them, they're naturally going to want to pass that along to the customer. So can you talk a little bit about what it is that you do for your team, how you feel about your team, how you view your team? Because I think that sets the stage for what it is that you do for them.
Yeah. So I think you have to screw it up to understand how to fix it. Right. Mm-hmm. So, if there's people who have worked for this company that, 35, maybe even 2 years ago, they would probably, if they've not seen us and heard about us and seen what's had changed since, they may disagree anytime I talk about this, or with someone now that says that they absolutely love working for quality, because we screwed it up. But until Oscar and I were able to kind of humble ourselves and say, what in the hell is the problem? We weren't able to recognize that it was us, it was our management, it was the expectations that we had. And so, just like we say we want to show up different as the company that shows up to your house, it is an expectation as a manager in this company that you show up different as a leader every day. You show up better than you expect, better than your employees expect you, and you show up to lead and help drive these people in a way that we understand that we're spending more time with them than they get to spend with their family. Especially as we are coming into cooling season, we know that that's a big pull. And so we screwed up some things big time, we did. And we had to sit down and say, what are we going to do to be better? Because when Oscar and I sat down and talked about that, the reason why this company exists is because we wanted better. And then we fell really quickly into that trap of being the same that, oh, there's no work in December right now. No hours for you. Sorry. What was I supposed to do? Now it's, if there's no hours in December, you're still getting paid. And that's a failure on this call center, and they know that too. They understand that I guarantee them hours. They guarantee, their expectation is to help here. And so I think the biggest thing for us was screw up. You have to screw up in general. All of us do, or you don't have any idea of what's happening.
Right.
Well, and like you learn, if it's okay to fail, but what do you learn from that? How do you move forward? How do you change things? And we were chatting with another agency owner about that, and he's like, yeah, you know what, it's okay if you mess up, if you fuck up, but what are you going to take from that? How are you going to learn? How are you going to change? I mean, there's two paths that I want to go with this. One, you mentioned, and it's just like, it eye opened for me. And I was like, oh shit, I've never really thought about it this way, but you said it, we joke, like Evan and I joke, we're our work husbands, with each other. But you said you spend more time with your employees and your team than they spend more time with each other than they sometimes do with their own families. And I want, like, rewind and re-listen to that again, because that is such an important part, that if you treat your people like family, and somebody might say, well, my family's shit. Okay, we're not getting into that. Treat them like a family, a good family that you want to be a part of, right, is a huge thing. And so walk us through, I know it's one of the things, like, you have through April through August, you try to go out once a month in doing some of your team outings. How do you go about structuring that? And how do you get total buy-in from the team? Because I know a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to go do that. Why? How are you getting that buy-in from everybody within the office?
Well, it still goes back to that expectation from the management team, and like leadership starts at the top. And so we had our golf outing this past Sunday. And so in that outing specifically, we were supposed to be at a real golf course with golf carts, because we were real excited about the golf carts. Okay. However, we ended up with like 24-mile-an-hour winds on that Sunday. And so we knew that was coming in. So we flipped to like the Top Golf Suites type place. And every manager, our service manager, install manager, our operations, every manager has the expectation from us, me and Oscar, of we can't have a direct relationship with 45 people and be successful at it. And the only way for us to do that is through extensions of you guys. Oscar and I do one-on-ones with everyone in the company 2 times a year. We're actually going through those right now, where we sit down. We don't talk about your performance. We're not talking about anything besides your goals and how we can help you achieve your goals, buying a house, being promoted at this company, those types of things. But the managers below, they need to start working on those relationships as well. And so number one is having the conversation about the events that's coming up. Hey, I'm going to be there too. Meet me there, those types of things. And so we just don't have a ton of struggle with that. I think most of the time people just really like to hang out together. We've had a time that no one wanted to hang out with anybody, right? Mm-hmm. And I take that back to the time of screw it up so you can fix it. And we realize that there's so much good in people. And I don't think that people are intentionally malicious. And it's, there's just find the common one-on-ones to help a lot of those things. And I think that's probably the biggest contributor to our buy-in is the one-on-ones, because our team just has consistent relationships with management. So
with those one-to-ones, I know you and Oscar, do you do them together or do you do them separate?
Yep. We do them together. I send out a link to my calendar. Basically, it says, hey, work with your manager, find a spot on my calendar for a 30-minute meeting. And they schedule, we take like 3 to 5 a week. And then me and Oscar, we sit down with them and we go again, it's not performance based. I don't want to talk about your numbers, your truck revenue, your call time, none of that stuff. We're just talking about your wife, your kids, what are they doing? What's your goal for this? We have installers that want to become a service tech, and we have service techs that are installers that never want to be a service tech. But if having conversations about goals of their personal life helps us get to who they want to be inside the company. Well,
I think of the quote in kind of a sales quote, but also with your team, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Mm-hmm. And if you now, like, I love this idea of the one-to-ones and not having any single, because people hear performance review and they're like, I don't want to do another performance review, right? But your phrasing is getting to know each other and building that family relationship with each other. So I love that.
And for the people who are saying, well, I don't have the time for that, how many staff do you have that you run through in those one-to-ones?
We have 45 people. And I would tell you that you don't have time not to do it because losing someone and then having to rehire and retrain takes much more time than 30 minutes with that person. Mm-hmm. And, I got in a conversation in one of these groups about turnover or people quitting without giving a 2 weeks notice. And why is that the norm these days? And my response was, it's the norm because most of us say, if you're quitting and you're still actively going to my customers' homes, you're not going to do that anymore, right? So, but you can identify if someone's unhappy way sooner if you're having a consistent one-on-one.
Right.
And then you have time to fix it. Or you have time to have the conversation of we can be done now. Because sometimes not everyone's going to be the right fit. Right. But a lot of people, and I think that's, again, being able to humble yourself and find the problem in yourself. And that's hard because we're all perfect, right?
Mm-hmm. Always, of course.
I didn't want to be like, Cassie, they don't like you. Sometimes you're a bitch, right? But I had to identify that sometimes I'm a little hot-headed, and I have to maybe close that off a little bit and go into the storage closet and be mad instead of throwing stuff here because we didn't hit sales revenue today. You know what I mean? Like, I had to recognize that maybe I've been the problem. And until you're able to see that for yourself, you can't fix the future problems. But then when you do those one-on-ones with your team and they can identify maybe your problem and their problem, you can fix it before it festers into an issue.
And you also have the relationship to be able to have a real, raw, honest conversation with somebody too, because now you've chatted with them and yeah, it's an hour and a half to 2.5 hours per week to meet with your team, and that's your job as leadership. But if there is an issue, you can just go and you can have that raw, real, unfiltered conversation because you have a relationship with those individuals and those people, and you can get to the root of the problem a lot sooner. So it's a super impactful strategy for the long haul.
Yeah, so Oscar, my husband, he is much more quiet than I am. He has some profound wisdom. I was in a one-on-one with him one time with another employee, and he said, have you ever got a blister or a splinter and you see it and you're like, that doesn't really hurt, and you keep going on, and then you ignore it, and then you keep ignoring it, and over a time it festers and now it's infected. He's like, if you have a problem or a frustration that is not that big of a deal, sorry, I think the phones are ringing because if it rings, it's like that's line 7, I think. If you have a problem that you don't address and you're like, that's not that big of a deal, but then it happens again and now it's festering and it's becoming an infection and it's becoming a problem. And if you would have just got the splinter out when it happened, you would have addressed the problem and not gotten to this point, because now that infection's there, sometimes infection spreads.
Mm-hmm. So almost always it does.
Yep.
Well, and you mentioned something earlier about like the people that aren't the right fit in a company, right? One rotten apple turns the rest of the apples rotten. But the other part of that too is that if you've created this culture and you've created this everybody together as a family and these one-to-ones, if they don't like that,
Mhm.
they're going to get overpowered by everybody that likes it and wants it, and they're just going to eventually weed themselves out because
Mhm.
they're not fitting into that culture. And it's maintaining that culture though, so that way those bad apples don't turn everybody else rotten. They just fall off the tree and away you go.
Yeah, for sure. We used to be. It's hard. I mean, I think most people can like understand when I say it's hard to find a technician or it's hard to put that training into someone. And I used to, if someone would come in and put their 2 weeks notice in or say they were leaving, I would be mad. And I'm like, well, we need you to stay. And sometimes we do. Sometimes we needed to fix something, but sometimes they just weren't the right person anymore. When we lost a few people in the transition of our brand change, and then when we grew, I say that was the hardest spot for us when we went from like 10 employees and we hit over like 25, because what we had to do was put processes in place, and we didn't have processes before. And so now we have processes. No, those first 10, they didn't want the process. What do you mean? We've done what we wanted. Well, we did, but now we need a process. And so we lost some people then, and I was like heartbroken over it. And I had to realize like they wanted that smaller environment. They wanted I was so excited to say, but we have insurance and we have all these things that you aren't going to get there. But what they wanted was they didn't want the structure.
Right.
And sometimes that's fine. And you just have to accept that that's fine.
Totally.
Mhm.
You want to build your business with the right people.
Mhm.
Right. At the end of the day, like you said, they spend more time with you than their own family. So you gotta like them. You've mentioned a few times learning from screw ups and continually messing things up in order to make it better and build those standards and build those expectations. So I'm curious, what were some of those biggest screw ups early on that have led you to the success and the achievement that everyone's seeing right now?
I think probably one of the most profound was not identifying who understood the vision of the company and handling that, because we would just say, well, they've been here, they did this, or they know this, or we love them, and it's like, but if you have to understand the vision of the company that you're working for, that doesn't matter if that's our company or someone else in a totally different industry. You have to understand the passion that drives that ownership, that management every single day. You have to understand the vision for the company, what we stand for. Our number one core value is serve people. If you don't like people, and we joke sometimes, right? We all do, like, today. But if you genuinely do not like people, this would never be the company for you.
Yep.
If you genuinely don't want to talk to people, this will never be the company for you. And we did not push people to make that decision. We just let them be who they were. And I think that was a huge mistake for us in the beginning.
I love that. Are those your core values behind you?
No.
Okay.
That's just my ride talent. I think it's
I couldn't read it because it was in cursive and it looked like it might have said serve. It looks like it starts with an S, the first one, but I couldn't see.
You can't read cursive?
Yeah.
I'm from Canada. We don't practice cursive. No.
Success, grit, hustle, talent, execute, and grind. And there's something under there. Those are my values.
I love it.
Company.
I love it.
So.
I want to jump into our random question. Then I've got another question around failure and the call center specifically and how that's operating, because there's been a lot of people in the last month who I kept seeing on the Facebook groups complaining about not having enough calls. So I want to get into that call center and what to do during slow times in a second. But first, our random question. So we got 3 pulled up here for you. So A, B, or C, which would you prefer?
Oh gosh. A.
All right. What law have you broken the most in your life?
Probably speeding.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know. I try to be good. I think pretty good. Speedy.
Pretty
I'm
good.
gonna say speedy. I'm not gonna implicate myself for anything else. I think.
No, that's fair. This is live on Facebook. So.
A lot of local police officers are gonna be waiting for. No, I'm just kidding.
We won't report you, I promise. I can't say the same for some of our guests that
exactly.
are watching, or some of the viewers, I should say.
So, in regards to the call center, I guess what failures have you had along the way in setting that up and building that to get it to the point that it's at today, specifically around slow time and feeling like you've failed your technicians by not having enough calls on the board for them to go run during December or during those slow times of the year?
I think the first thing that we realized is when we needed another person. So we had Kelly. So anyone who knows me knows Kelly, right? Kelly and I have been friends for 27 years, but we recruited her to come work for us. And so she was like employee number 3 or 4, like with us, right? Wow. And she did some bookkeeping for us, and she did some other things. When we went and we had a real office and we were doing some things and she was answering the phone, the customer service that she could deliver over the phone was solid. Everyone knew she was going to answer the phone. She would answer the phone 24/7 for like 4 years. And the experience that she gave over the phone, again, she worked at Best Buy with me. We know that customer experience. She's the definition of her customer service voice went to Harvard, right? She's that definition. And so when we needed to hire another person so she could do some other things in the business, my immediate thought was, let's just hire a receptionist, because I didn't know any better. And
right.
So let's get someone, probably a girl, like being stereotypical in that and a receptionist, and we're going to pay her $10 an hour. No one's answering your damn phones for $10 an hour. And honestly, no one wants to answer your damn phones for $14 an hour. So we made those were mistakes number 1. We went through it, and I finally told Kelly, why can we not keep anyone in this position? Well, we couldn't keep anyone in the position because we were not paying them anything. Right. They were taking on call, and that wasn't going to work. And so we changed it, and I changed the interview process. I interview every call center person with Kelly, and I changed the whole interview process. And there's a girl that works here now. Her name's Aspen, and she's in inside sales now. She said, Cassie, you set me up as like, this is going to suck, and I did. I told her, this job is not peaches and cream. No one calls this business for a beer and says like, or for a good time, something's broke. I don't know if I can afford it. What am I going to do? How fast can you get here? I'm hot. My baby's hot. The water's not working. Someone's mad. They're not just calling to say, hey, but you know what? You get here when you can. That's not how that works. And so I now in those interviews, I talk about that specifically. No one's calling for a good time. Someone's always pissed, always mad. Not all. I mean, our customers call and they're great, but if I'm hot, if I'm toasty. So when we just recently moved into a new building, and Oscar put the thermostat in my office that controls me and the call center, because he knew that he had to control me. So I control, like, if I'm hot, I'm cranky. I get that. And so I started the interview. We went backwards with the interview. I started that over and just saying, we have to do better. We have to do different. And so now we explain that. We talk about what happens on the phone. Anybody who does anything in advertising, how much money we spend to get the phone to ring. You cannot afford for someone to trash that call because they didn't ask the right questions. Our PPC guy, he's like our best hype guy, because he's like, I'm listening to these calls and they're amazing. how quickly we answer the phone. Like I said, it was ringing in here a few minutes ago because it's gone through the tree and it was coming to me, and I will still answer the phone because if it's coming and those lines are full, I'm answering the phone. And then it goes to Oscar and we're answering those calls because it's important to get on the phone. We're not you will never hear, please hold. No, we're here. We're at your service. We're listening to you. We're caring about what you have to say. You're not an annoyance. We're waiting for you to pause so we can answer a question, or we can now ask you a question because we want to be attentive to what you have to say. And so I think we just had to stop with the no expectations for the call center.
Fair. Now, in terms of, and look, anybody that has done sales and has done outbound cold calling, I mean, this isn't outbound cold calling. This is obviously inbound. And you are right. So with that it sucks, right? And we had Michael Torbe on the show a little while ago, and he went off the chains about when somebody calls and then you ask the question of, well, how did you hear about us today? Because they don't care, right? They're in pain. They've got a problem and they're coming to you for a solution. And so having that empathy is a big thing for that. And I think that also when you talk about your culture and the team, the family you've created, it's a natural blend within that role. So when you look at, you specifically mentioned in December, right? If there's no calls, if they don't have any work in December, that's a failure on the call center. Walk us through that statement. What does that mean, and what do you do to generate business during slow time?
I think, memberships are a huge piece of any HVAC company business, and memberships are a huge piece of business in general. I just bought some new sunglasses yesterday, and they're called the Quay sunglasses, but I think you don't say it like that. But anyways, I paid a $20 membership, so now I can get this and that, and everything's membership driven. So that's a huge focus for us. But I tell this office staff, the entire staff, management, account advisors, install coordinator, warehouse manager, inside sales, everybody inside this office is guaranteed 40. I never ever cut the office staff. But if we're not booked, what are we doing with the field staff? And they have zero control. We train them to diagnose a problem and then repair it same day. So we're not flipping the job to tomorrow. So they have no control over tomorrow's hours. And so the only way that they can feel a sense of security is if we're doing our job. And so we are calling our customers from the summer to remind them, hey, we were there last summer. It's now you did not sign up to be a club member, but it's time for your heat maintenance. We're calling our customers that are already our people, are ours. I think about if I was a homeowner and I am a homeowner, but I wasn't in HVAC, I didn't even know anything about filters when I started dating Oscar. I had no clue. And so I would be very dependent on you calling me. I think about too, our yard company, the one that comes and sprays the bugs. We have a service 4 times a year. They know that they're going to call me and tell me they're on the way, and I'm not going to answer. So now they're going to text me, still not going to answer. And now they upsell me through a text message because they know I'm not going to answer. But they know who I am as a customer, and they know how to serve me because I'm not going to answer their phone call. So I think that for us, it's important, and what we train our call center of understanding as through the years as we build a relationship with our customers, how they need us to serve them, how they want us to communicate with them, and how we're going to remind them of their things. And again, so part of that is just going through. There's so much available in your database, but a lot of people forget that.
Yep. So. No, I love that. The idea of reverse engineering a process,
Yep.
right? Looking at how it is that you react to things. If you are your ideal client, right? You're in the right age group, you live in the right area, you have the right house size. If you fit that profile, how is it that you buy other home service business services, right? I love that idea of being able to reverse engineer it, looking at how busy people would respond to you, having automated text messages that go out. All of that needs to be in place with every business, and the ones that don't do that just baffles me because I know you're busy. So
automation is fun.
Oh, it's a wonderful thing.
Wonderful, wonderful thing.
I know that you.
The other thing I should say on that too is we hire the next CSR probably 6 months before we need them. Our most recent hire for CSR, when she started, I think at first she was nervous, like this phone isn't ringing as much as she said, but we hire so we can spend that time in training, because I do have someone that still works here and she says, Cassie, this makes me laugh because remember when I started last June of 2021 and it was busy and you said, hey, I need you to listen to some calls and you're answering the phone by noon. I told her that and she did well. Okay. But not everyone could have survived with that. I could have very easily lost her that week and I would have lost an amazing employee. And so now we hire way before we need them and we eat that overhead that we know that that's cutting into our profit. We know that we are higher in office staff than we need to be, but that's something I'm willing to do to make sure that when it's time and that person's trained. And so if you stay in tune to your budget and your expectations and your truck goals and all of that, you should know when you need that next person, and you should be bringing that person in way sooner than when you need them.
Love it. That's a brilliant concept, and I'm definitely going to be using that as my nugget for the show. We got two final questions for you. Number one, I know you mentioned that you do have an appointment to get to after this, and you are going to Pantheon next week. So I'm curious, who is it that you are looking forward to hearing from, meeting, talking to at Pantheon?
I am so excited. I think, well, first of all, I'm real excited about Brad Paisley, the concert, because I am a huge country music fan in general. And I think this year we've already been to like 12 concerts this year. So that's just like a super perk for us.
Which I loved your post, by the way, where you shared, like, it's one thing to be a country fan yourself and at a concert. It's another thing to watch your kids at the country concert and they're having the time of their life.
So amazing. They were so hyped. It was awesome. But I'm super excited for that. Honestly, I think I'm most excited about meeting all the Lady Titans. There's, the Lady Titans group. There's so many people that I have talked to on Facebook for years and have never touched their hand, and so I think it's going to be just a huge, I can feel the adrenaline of just getting to meet everyone. That happened. We went to Uncle Joe's True Grit, and I remember being there and I was like, forget this everyone on stage. I just wanted to hang out because it's like, these are my people. I've been talking to you through so much isolation through COVID and all of these things, and you're live here with me, and so I'm super excited about the Lady Titans.
Amazing.
Nice. I know we've got a few of the Lady Titans on the show, and always a treat and always a delight.
So much knowledge in that group. And I remember going to our first event last year in the fall, and that experience, because we started this business right before COVID hit. And so we were starting to bring on clients, do all of that. COVID hits, and we built this business through it and never met any of them face to face. So it was super cool to do that. Last question for you, one of our favorites. What is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but they don't?
One question that I wish people would ask me more. I don't, that could go a couple ways. I'm all about beating a dead horse. I think women in the trades is a huge focus, right? You've heard me yelling. You've heard us talking about it. You've heard us banging our drum. And I think the question I would say is maybe how could we do that? A huge piece of that is women in leadership roles in the company. How could you do that? And we have ideas. We could help you. I'm a huge fan of, like we were talking before the show, of doing what you say you're going to do and sticking with it. And so there's so much opportunity that's being missed. And I'd love to talk about that. I'd love for that to be the topic more often, and not just like when I get called out on it in a Facebook message or a Facebook group. I'm talking let's be proactive, not reactive.
100%. Well, I'll be the first to say thank you so much for being a shining example of women in the trades and leading from the front, not just through action, but also with your voice and being very vocal on the trade groups, online, sharing your voice, and being really at the forefront of trying to bring more women into it. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thank you so much for your knowledge. We truly appreciate it. I know our community appreciates it as well. And we look forward to having you on again in the future.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. I'm always here for those chats and those conversations. And I know I come off super abrasive sometimes, but not maybe as grumpy as I come off. I just don't let you get out of it. I don't let people weasel out of it.
I love it.
I call that passion.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's passion for sure.
There you go. Well, cheers.
Until next time. Cheers, Cassie.
Coke Zero.
Thanks for watching another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this show to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.